One thing I want to say about my YouTube experience is I totally have created like 14 videos or so. Out of 14 videos, like 3 or 4 videos are garbage, total garbage. I never recommend my client to always go for this approach or that approach unless we have a proper business justification or proper reason to go with microservices. It's not always about making how much money you make from the mentoring. It's never about that, but it's more about the satisfaction you get at the end of the mentorship when somebody say, I got a job because of you. Thank you for that.
Welcome everyone to a new episode of the Top Mentor podcast. And today we have Nilan here, who is a senior Java architect. Welcome, Nilan.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks a lot for coming. It's an honor to have you here. So for presenting to you, to the audience, you've been in the Java field for quite some time now, creating content in a blog site and in a YouTube channel that we will discuss later. And so I wanted to start asking you about, a specific topic about programming, which is like, why are you focused mainly on Java, and what do you think are the things that keep you in that loop for your career?
Okay, first of all, thanks for inviting me. And we have been talking about this podcast for a long time, but because of whatever reason, we couldn't meet. But yeah, so today we are lucky to meet each other. Anyway, about my Java career, I've started as when I passed out from college, I started my IT career as a teacher. So I was teaching in a college for some time, and then eventually I moved to programming because programming was honestly paid as compared to the teaching job back in the day. And then I started my career as a mobile developer. So I was doing gamings for mobile phones. And at that time, it was like not the smartphone. So we had like the Nokia phones and the Symbian S60, those sort of old devices. And I was developing phones for different companies, and including companies like Samsung, where we created the Note app. So if you realize the Samsung Galaxy, the first Galaxy S device,
I had.
So I was the developer working on creating that Paint application. The stylus was a thing back in the day. And so that was one of the interesting project for a fresher to start with. And I worked in mobile for a couple of years, like around 4 to 5 years. Eventually moved to Android as the mobile was evolving. And then one day it happened so that I realized that, Android and mobile application is all good, but then you don't get the whole picture. Because unless you work on what is going on in the back end, front end, and like really the data layer of it, it doesn't really make you feel complete. Because you're always isolated on the front end part, because mobile ultimately is a front end, right? It's something similar to creating a JavaScript, but using Android SDK and Java, right? So it made me to feel like, okay, I'm not a complete developer. So let me move to the back end. So that's when I started learning more of the Java Spring, and then that time there was like Struts and Hibernate and Spring, that sort of old frameworks that used to be very popular back in the day. So I started learning that, and then eventually I moved to Spring. So since then, never turning, Spring has been the passion to learn, and the ecosystem, the whole ecosystem, and the platform itself is like grown like vast, right? If you see how it was 10 years back and how it is today, especially the people who are working in the Spring team, they are amazing people. You so much to learn, so much to look up to, the way they kind of growing the platform, growing the ecosystem as a whole. And eventually I moved to the enterprise integration side. So I'm working a lot into data layer of it. So you mainly developing a lot of ETL sort of applications, then APIs, and a lot of backend data processing. And so that's how my journey started as a Paint developer to a backend enterprise data-driven developer. So I've been working as an architect for a while now. So it's been like 5 years. I'm kind of helping the team to build the designs or the robust design that will scale and that will help customers to get the product very quickly to the market. And since microservices are a very trendy topic in the industry, we are one of the early adopters of microservice pattern. And yeah, we started using stuff like Kubernetes, Docker, and using like Spring Boot platform as a core for developing our applications. So that's how the whole journey has begun from Code, if I'm not wrong. And now we're using like Java 17. It's like quite a big change.
Yeah, that's quite a story. There's also, it reflects the evolution from Java itself, like from the early stages and then up till now when you have Kotlin for mobile development and Android development, and now you're transition towards microservices, and also that all tales about the Galaxy epoch and the previous to the early stages of the Android smartphones. When I recall that having those the S1 and S2, I believe I had, and those were pretty good phones that were trying to battle the iPhone in the first kind of versions. And when I was in college, I was starting to play around with the Android Studio, and none of us have any idea. We were trying to learn programming itself in general, and then we don't have any idea about what to do. And it was fun to leave that stage. I believe a lot of people did a lot of money actually on the Android applications, and it was like the golden age of that business model. And I believe you put a great insight about how you transition from one area to the other, because some people, I believe, tend to, feel like I have to choose a pattern and I have to follow a path. And then in your case, for example, you can showcase that you started teaching, then moving to the development for phones, and then kind of on a big picture of architecture and doing big systems that apply other type of patterns, so that can relate on people that are doubting to choose. It's like you can test whatever, something will be your path and you will feel that way. And so I would like to dive deep on the microservices side. So I have been in some discussions lately and I've been thinking about it because of my career as well. So from your experience, when do you think microservices could be a good fit? And then, for example, for people that are thinking about launching a startup or doing their own project, how do you think that they should start moving to microservices if they need to, or they should start monolithic and then move with a smooth kind of path?
Yeah. Well, microservice is very trendy in the market. People think it is a thing to implement in every single type of requirement. But in my opinion, it is the case-to-case basis. So you need to understand the requirement first. What is your business looking for? What is your client looking for? And what is your requirement in terms of how you want to scale it, how many users you have, what sort of workflow and the team you're working with. I think it is the combination of everything that will be a deciding factor whether you should choose a microservice pattern or you should go with something else. Let me give you an example, right? For example, right now what we did is we have broken down our bigger team into very small units. For example, we have like 3-4 developers working with one microservice. And instead of having like all 20-30 people working for one big monolith, we now have smaller teams. So as a result, it is very quick turnaround. We have a less team, so there is a less chance of having communication failures. So that is a good part of it. But if you look back on the bad part of it in the long run, what happens eventually is like those 4 people in the team, they don't stay for long. So if the team transition happens, if the new people come on boarded, then you basically lose the knowledge that you have built over the years, because every team is working very isolated and they have no clue of what is going on in your in the other part of your application. So it is the problem in a long run to maintain those applications. Secondly, it is also creates a lot of challenges, like the deployment challenges. Although the microservices are very isolated and they can be deployed quickly and easily, but then it requires a lot of DevOps and DevOps intervention. So you need like DevOps for every single thing, and particularly if you are working on a very enterprise where your security is the biggest concern, then you obviously don't expose any of your the configs or any of your credentials, etc., to your developers. Then it becomes really challenging to implement certain features which could be really easy otherwise. So those are two factors I just talked about. Then also the other things like what is your business need? Do they really care about scaling certain part of your application? For example, if you're building a bookstore, you probably don't want to have like 10 different servers added to your checkout service, right? Not many people will check out, but if you're running a specific campaign, then for that particular campaign, let's say you have you're expecting 1 million hits because of your campaign, then only that part of your application can be scaled up. So again, looking at all those kind of factors, you decide. There is no right or wrong answer. And again, I'm in the view that monolithic architecture is not a bad practice, given that it is properly organized. You have like proper code modules which isolate each other. They're not necessarily bad practice to do, but it's just that depends on what your business context is, what you're looking for in terms of what is your team size, what is your cost and budget you have, how quickly you want to deploy things in production, how isolated your components are, most importantly, right? If they are very tightly integrated, if you can't isolate them, for example, if you're building a search functionality for your website, it is easy to isolate it. It is very clear, but there is no point to isolate it if you know that your traffic is going to be more or less, let's say, 10,000 hits a day. I don't see any point of creating a specific microservice architecture because it creates a lot of overburden of maintaining two different services. You could rather do one. Again, there is no straight answer. It is based on all those context that you have. So if it lacks the context, then obviously you're going to go wrong. So I never recommend my client to always go for this approach or that approach unless we have a proper business justification or proper reason to go with microservices.
No, I can totally relate on that, and I agree that the decision is always pretty straightforward. I believe that they became like everything that is a trend, kind of a buzzword, and people started to apply to everything, and they didn't take into account, I believe, some adopters, the overhead that it makes in terms of the ops side, because requires a lot of pipelines and the scale that you need to for that pattern to make it work, and of course the separation of concerns that you need. It complexes a lot the application itself. If you need it, then it's fine, but for starters, if you can start with a monolith that is well modularized or even a serverless application, if it fits your needs, then you can consider microservices once the scale and once the application requires it. Like you see areas that are being a bottleneck, that could be a microservice itself, and then you can keep the monolith itself, and also learning how to transition that. Those are very good key. Like you can have a big monolith, and then you can have, if you have a bottleneck, just do it as a separate microservices and start from that, so you can reduce the overhead.
I think the key point you just talked about is if you are a smaller team and smaller startup, then always go for a monolithic architecture with clear separation of concerns and having like modular approach. So you use, let's say, Java, Spring, or any other programming language like Python. You could always write different modules and you keep your code still clean. And at some point in future, if your business demand, you can always separate them out into different microservices if you feel there is a need for that. Yeah, that's definitely the right way to go for a smaller team and very recommended approach.
Yeah, that's a good try. And so I want to move to a different topic that caught my attention when we meet up on Twitter, and is the blog side. So for me, it's like a very intermittent practice. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I am now more on social media kind of posts, time, maybe move to newsletters. But back in the day, and now, what made you decide that you could start a blog, and what did make you to maintain it?
Yeah. So, a funny thing, when I started my career, I was very quick to realize I know very little in tech, right? So when I met with people, I had brilliant people I was working with. They were very smart, and they were like all. I was always looking up to them. This guy is like great. He knows a lot many things. I'm like, literally, I'm in zero. So that made me to realize that I need to learn many things as possible. And I was like putting my head into so many different random stuff. It went on for a while, and then I realized it is not organized. So I need to organize myself a little bit. So that's when I started taking notes and creating like a plan for myself. So as I go through the plan and start learning new stuff, then again, it came to know that it was like I'm losing sight of the things that I learned before. So I was like, keep forgetting things as you keep learning new things, because it's as a fresher, it's like too many things for you to remember at once. So what I did is I decided to take a note. It was initially a notepad note somewhere on my computer, completely offline.
Mm-hmm.
And then it grew up to a way that I had around like 100 files sitting somewhere on my computer. And then I realized like this note is very handy and useful. It is like daily driver for my work. But what if I put that in a more formatted and nicer way for, on the web, so that other people can read it? And that's when this whole idea of blogging came into my mind. Again, I didn't have a lot of money to invest on a blog, and at that time we didn't have platforms like, let's say, Medium and Dev2 and those sort of things. I'm talking about 2008,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
2009 at that time. So there was Blogspot though. Google came up with Blogspot, oh, that ugly looking site. Anyway, I started migrating all my content into Blogspot. And then I realized that this is very helpful for people to read. And I started sharing with my team. At that time, I was already a tech lead, promoted to a tech lead role. And all my team started finding it very useful. They started using my site, and they were asking
Mm-hmm.
for, why don't you put this? Why don't you put that? Why can't you add another new content? And that's where it was basically driven from my own passion of learning. And I started learning new stuff. And as I learned new stuff, I adding to my blog. The blogspot was for, I think I kept it for like 3-4 years. And then obviously blogspot is not good for SEO. People don't find it. Google also doesn't rank it, well. It doesn't offer you a lot of customization and
Mm-hmm.
automation capability. So I realized too that I should move away from blogspot into something more sophisticated. And what can be better than WordPress? WordPress is a very popular CMS. People love it, and there are like millions of websites on WordPress. WordPress was pretty good. I moved there, built a custom theme and custom template and all sort of custom things using PHP. Can you imagine a Java developer writing PHP? It was not the fun thing, yeah, any Java developer would like
Yeah,
to
I've
do.
been there.
Yeah, so that went
Yeah.
on. It was there until 2017, and then I had to learn Python, because when I was doing my architectural work, I realized that writing some piece of work, for example, some data analysis, etc., in Java is very difficult. It takes a lot of code writing, and then
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn Python. I knew little bits and pieces, but I never did anything practical. So I realized, okay, let's move into learning Python. And as I was learning new Python concepts, I was building my blog side by side. So my blog was the project, as a driver for learning Python. I never take any video
Mm-hmm.
course. It's mostly the official documentation is my reference most of the times. But yeah, so as I learn new things, I will start building it. And then I used Django as a platform for my blog. started writing it and completely migrated that. And there is a lot of hiccups because there are a lot of unknowns which you realize later, which is normally given by WordPress, comes out of box. Things like sitemap or search index optimization. All that is very handy when you do that in WordPress. But then I had to build everything myself from ground up, and it was a good experience moving everything from from your PHP based platform to something your custom. Now it gives me ability to add more stuff. So that is how my blogging platform has been transitioned from a blog spot to a more like sophisticated Python based website. And maybe I'm thinking to move that from Python to recently, they released and it's getting popular quickly. So I'm thinking to move that to Vaadin at some point. I don't have time, but yeah, that's my plan.
Yeah, I've been seeing the Vaadin recently and it looks good. I assume they implement Tailwind or something like that because it looks good on the CSS side. I am kind of hesitant about like full stack kind of frameworks, even though I like a lot the idea. If it works, it's a great idea. The only thing is that sometimes they don't fully get the whole scope, but looking forward if you do that, I will definitely take a look. And also another observation about what you mentioned is that the benefit of doing the project kind of learning in your side based on the Python project for your blog, that also relates like how do you be able to master a skill to the project and not through tutorials and all of that. It's like you get your project and that way you build the knowledge because you deliver something that works, and it's basically great. The feeling of being able to reach out to a DNS or to a domain and being able to see what you'll write.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest challenge with learning from the blogs and tutorials, although I'm speaking as a blogger, can you imagine I'm speaking against the blogging community. But anyway, so the challenge there is people, let's say I'm writing a blog today. After 2 years, it gets outdated. And most blogger doesn't have the luxury of time to go back in time, refactor or update that content. So what you see on the web is very outdated kind of content, and the tech industry is moving really fast. And you can't really keep up with the tech industry and keep updating your content. That's really practically not possible. Very few bloggers who do that. If you have like tons of articles and tons of tutorials placed everywhere, it is very easy to get misled by those articles because they might be outdated. So the best reference always is, even if you look for tutorial or some blog, you just take the idea from there, but you always refer back to the official documentation of whatever the latest version of the framework or the tool or the language you're using, and then reapply that to your code. Otherwise, you will be always be misguided by different stuff people suggest. They might be working for a specific environment, specific frameworks, a specific version. It may not work for you. So you should always keep yourself up to date with the official documentation is always something I recommend to all my juniors and all my mentees.
Yeah, that's great. And I totally agree with that one. So another topic about what you mentioned about the blog is that, by creating these writing pieces and these notes, do you think that it affects positively the way you have learned the topic through your career?
It definitely is helping you because when I learn myself, if I do a project myself, then I might be not knowing certain things. Because, for example, I'll give you a practical scenario, right? Let's say you're writing a service to import certain data. So what you normally learn theoretically, like going from a documentation or some blog, and then start copying their implementation into your ID. You start running it, and obviously it's going to work, right? There is no way it should fail because somebody else already did it. But what you don't learn in the process is the challenges you normally get when you start implementing new scenarios, right? Something that is not there, not covered as a part of that article. So you can only learn when you start doing your project of your own. You define your own rule set, you define your own set of requirements, and start implementing on completely new environment. So when you do that, the challenges you face for that kind of work is completely different, right? It's something similar to simulating your actual work environment. In company, when you implementing a new feature, you get to realize like so many new challenges which you never even think of if you're learning as a tutorial. So that's when, if you start writing a kind of article or a blog, then what it points you to, okay, did I cover this? Did I cover that? You try to cover literally all aspect of the implementation or API or framework, whatever it is. Then you start thinking about your practical example that you're building to cover all those scenarios, right? So you want as much coverage for a particular topic. And that's when it kind of broaden your mind. So earlier you could only think about very little, but now because you are speaking in the public, it also gives you kind of confidence that, okay, now I'm covering all different aspects of a particular topic, and people will definitely like it because it is giving you more context than a very specific piece of work. So yeah, definitely blogging helps you a lot to broaden your idea, and also it gives you a lot of visibility in public and gives confidence to yourself and also to others.
Yeah, I believe that that helps you build the authority when you spend your time writing and you spend your time building and you talk about the topic. After all, you are learning it and you are building yourself as authority because people can search you online and can find your articles. And it's great that you can share something that says, no, I have been through that. There's a blog post I wrote about that here. You can check it out if you like it, and you can provide me any feedback. That's an awesome sensation that you have once you write, and that's like building authority on the topic that if you want to dedicate your career to that, it's a great decision and a great investment. So, and evolving from the blogging side, you recently started on the YouTube section. So for people that are wanting to start, maybe have thought about the YouTube part, what has been your experience on creating this content, and how do you think it differentiates from the written part? And what have been the benefits that you have extracted from being a YouTube creator?
Okay, so I don't have a lot of experience, as you said. I've just started my YouTube, channel, and also I'm not very regular in updating those contents, because a creation of YouTube video takes a lot of time, and having a regular full-time job along with content creation and YouTube is very challenging. But I promise to at least make one video a week. I'm trying really hard to meet that expectation. So coming to the content creation, it makes it easy for me because I'm anyway creating the content for my blog, and you basically write down everything, examples, scenarios, everything you already prepared in your head. You know what you are speaking or what you are presenting, and that kind of gives me a push that, okay, I'm already doing everything like 90%. Why don't I just make a video and publish it in my blog, so people interested on YouTube can find it and they can be benefited from that. Obviously my channel is not a profitable or for profit channel. It's just out of interest I started doing it. And also I realized one thing is, when you're speaking in front of a laptop alone in your room, it is very weird sometimes because you don't have anybody to speak to, but you're still speaking, and it gives you confidence in that, okay, this subject I completely know, because it is like a mirror. You see the mirror, what you see in the mirror is what you get. Similarly, when you are speaking about a particular topic, you're speaking in front of yourself, then you know that, okay, this is definitely not good. I don't know this topic. So you basically go back and do a little bit research more, and understand the concept more before you start speaking. So that is when it kind of give you a little bit more authority, finally, because you now know everything about a particular topic, and you can speak with confidence, and it boosts your knowledge definitely. So writing, along with that, you also same content take to the video. It is a challenge for me now because I just started. I don't know how things work. Editing always been a challenging. I'm not good at it, but I'm trying to improve that myself. And also I'm trying to create some sort of workflow so that it makes my life easier. It takes a lot of time as of now, but yeah, I'm working on it to kind of have a workflow for myself that help me to reduce the time for creating this content.
Yeah, as someone that has started as well with the podcast is something similar. There have been tips and tricks learning out there, and of course, the time that I spend with my first episode is not the same that I will spend with this one. I am a lot faster now, and I can do a lot of bulk. I tend, for example, the bulk type of effort is something that have benefited me a lot, like editing 3 podcasts in an afternoon. That's something that liberates me the week later on, even though it's since the talks are not that recent or I don't have to be like that trendy or that have to be the latest. I can edit 3 in a day, and even though I will be exhausted, I will have the work and I have the flow while editing. Like you start, and this is something that it tends to happen, I believe, with also with written code. It's like you do the bulk work, you do all the idea, and then you with the editing, you do it later. You can edit 2, 3 in a row, and this way it's like more mass production, and you can schedule ahead, which is a great benefit in general in content that you can do bulk, and then your calendar will be free for 2, 3, 4 weeks, and this way you can relax a bit on the topic because otherwise it will take, as you said, a lot of your time on the decision parties for those that we are not editors. It's a difficult role in that side, but I would encourage people to give it a try. As you said, you can do faceless videos showing whatever you want to learn, reading your written posts, anything that you think that is interesting. You can share news, you can share whatever, and I think that's a great thing to try. Maybe you don't like it, but I believe trying it as a developer, showing your videos could be great, right?
Yeah, I think one thing
Yep.
I want to share about my YouTube experience is
Mm-hmm.
I totally have created like 14 videos or so. Out of 14 videos, like 3 or 4 videos are garbage, total garbage. I literally haven't planned anything. I didn't even had a good microphone. But some of them now, the quality is kind of gradually increasing, the sound quality and the editing quality, because I'm obviously learning new stuff and the techniques on how to do things better.
Mm-hmm.
But all of this, in particularly in tutorial videos, doesn't really matter a lot, because one thing I've noticed is if your content is good, people love it. I have like 14 videos, like I said, and 10 videos more or less is little useful content. And in that 10 videos, one of my video made like 20,000 views with driving around 600 plus subscribers, while all other videos are driving like 100 to like 1000 views or something around 1200 400 in that range.
Mm-hmm.
Now it makes me wonder why. Okay, then I did a bit of analysis, and it turns out that the content of the previous video, the way it is presented and the way I'm kind of covering the topics in depth, is something people like it. And also people like the simplicity, because sometimes what happens when you present
Mm-hmm.
a tutorial video, you keep going really faster, doing like many steps without doing mistake. Imagine like I'm a teacher, I also do mistake. You do typing mistake, you do things, and people normally cut those things. And it is good as a production grade, it is good to cut them and make it clean. But then those are the similar mistake a learner who is watching your video will do, and it makes it more genuine when those mistakes are in the video instead of cutting everything, making it really fast. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm learning that YouTube is very good. If your content is good, people start liking it, it then promote your content to everyone. You don't really have to worry so much about how my video will make, where should I promote it, all that short stuff. YouTube really does that for you. It gives you kind of boost on certain videos for initial few days when you publish it. And if people don't like it based on the reaction of the people, if people simply ignore it, even though it is shown on their homepage, then they're definitely not going to promote it. So yeah, I think the key thing is good content, and presentation you can always improve. Even people like all the MKBHD is still spending a lot of money and techniques, improving his techniques on creating nice content. So you can never be perfect, but content is definitely important.
Yeah, and that's what you can leverage on, and you will increase with practices. I can relate that my descriptions, my titles, my everything have evolved significantly, and even though it's been like 3-4 months with a video per week, so it's like nothing related to what YouTubers could do with daily kind of streams. So moving on to a different topic, I want to end up with kind of the mentoring side. So I want to know about your experience in the mentoring field, and any advice that you could give for people that are thinking, being seniors or experienced people in the software or other technical areas, thinking about, okay, maybe I'll be able to start mentoring or to start helping other people. What advice could you give them?
So about my mentoring journey. So I started this from you, obviously, because I didn't had any clue about mentoring. We had our first conversation where you were on that platform, and I thought like, okay, why not me? Let's get in there. I got in there, and now I have like around 14 plus mentees. They're successfully, going doing program through me. Some of them completed. They got their job, and three of the guys they got their job, and it has been successful so far. So one thing I noticed is more than they learn from you, you also learn a lot from them because you get to talk to different people from different field and different experience. For example, there's a guy who came to me that he's working in the warehouse and now he wants to get into tech. So the level of the pace that you give, the plan that you help him to build is completely different because he has to start from what is internet, let's say, you know. And the guys who come to me, like they want to be promoted as an architect and they want to have some kind of help on defining their career path. So it is like wide range of experience, wide range of people with different behaviors, different attitude, and different personalities. It is always good for you to learn from them, and also it is keep refreshing your memory on the subject you probably don't go back and check again. For example, I wouldn't learn about the basics of some core Java concept, but now I am having to because I need to help somebody to prepare a plan. So I have to kind of revise on the process. So it is very useful for yourself to kind of keep yourself up to date, also learn new stuff, and obviously building a community for yourself. If you're blogging already, then that is also going to boost or help your blogging community because people will start seeing content on your blog, and it basically helps you literally in all aspect on all areas. And for every, as a suggestion, as a kind of tip, I would suggest if you have like let's say mid-level to senior level experience, then you must get into mentoring because it's not always about making how much money you make from the mentoring. It's never about that, but it's more about the satisfaction you get. At the end of the mentorship, when somebody say, "I got a job because of you. Thank you for that." Right? So it's very, very satisfying when you see that sort of message. So that is the whole purpose why I'm there on the mentorship program. And again, it's very early stage because it's been like 3 to 4 months or maybe 5, but I'm still getting there. But managing everything is, if you look at it, it's very complicated. But because you already have the content, you already have a plan, you already have a website and a channel, so it basically promote everything with your mentoring. So it's definitely helpful for people who are in the content creation, and if they are not in content creation as well, for your upskilling, for your soft skill, improving your soft skill, it's definitely highly recommended to go for any sort of mentorship.
Yep, that's a very good tip because the amount of learning that you could have from the mentoring, and also the switch that makes you in terms of what do you have to learn, revisiting topics, being helpful to you, being others, and the transition to other skills that will improve yourself in your job, like being able to deal with less experienced people, being able to switch topics, being able to stay organized, especially for people that maybe want to move to a more management kind of side. I think it's really helpful because you start to deal with a lot of different personalities. You need to learn that if they fit, how you should. It's not the same to prepare a plan for someone that is transitioning from tech to a different, more manual job, as from someone that is already, want to become an architect from a senior level. It's not the same complexity of the topics and also the same path. So that's great insight. And so I want to end up with letting the audience know where they can find you and what you are sharing out there. The floor is yours.
Well, you can find me literally all platform, particularly if you're a Java developer, you probably have seen me. You can see me on Twitter, on Ask Nilan Twitter handle. If you go to my website, then it is stacktips.com. On YouTube, I'm available at the TechModes handle. So yeah, please reach out to me. And you can also find me in Dev2, DZone, and many other different websites. Just put my name, you'll definitely find me there. And yeah, so reach out to me on my GitHub or email if you have any question. I'm happy to reply back and speak to new people.
Yeah. So I will put all the links available in the description. And I hope that people reach out to you because you are a great professional and someone that you can learn a lot from with all your content that you have out there. So thanks a lot, Nilan, for being here. It's been a pleasure to learn and to talk from you. And yeah, see you next time.
Definitely very nice experience talking to you on different subjects. And yeah, looking forward to speak to you again. Thank you.
Okay.